Welcome, chosen ones. If you found yourself watching this video, it's not by accident. It's not just a click, not just curiosity. It's a calling. You were led here because you carry something rare, something ancient, something eternal. You may have always felt different, misaligned with the world around you, but that's not a flaw. It's a sign that you were born for a higher path, a deeper mission, and a divine unfolding. This message is for you, and only you, the ones who are beginning to remember who they really are. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear will awaken something inside you that's been waiting to be seen, waiting to be heard, and waiting to rise. Your time has come. And if you've ever doubted that, you won't by the end of this message. Now, let me take you deeper. We are standing at the edge of a day unlike any other, a moment in time marked not by chaos, but by clarity. On April 23rd, 2025, something cosmic is unfolding. The world won't see it on the news, but you will feel it in your spirit. It is not fear that is rising. It is awareness. A spiritual threshold is opening, one that separates illusion from truth, noise from knowing, and routine from divine destiny. It's a moment where the old patterns begin to fall away, and the chosen step into a frequency they were born to carry. You may have sensed this shift. You may have been having strange dreams, feeling time bending, seeing signs others miss. You may be asking, why now? Why me? What am I supposed to do with this sense of something greater stirring inside? That's what we're going to explore together. And to guide us, I recall a truth I once wrote. All their life in this world and all their adventures had only been the cover and the title page. Now, at last, they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story. That chapter is beginning now, for you. Before we dive in, I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because we're going to break down exactly what this moment means for your life, your faith, and your spiritual awakening. If this speaks to you, if this resonates with something deep inside your soul, then please take a moment to press the like button. It tells the algorithm that more people like you are ready to hear the truth. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, because this space is being created for voices like yours, for journeys like the one you're about to take. And drop a comment below with the number 777. That's our signal to each other that we are part of something greater. Now, let's begin your journey right here, right now. Something is shifting beneath the surface of what we call normal. It's subtle but undeniable, like the moment before the tide turns, or the pause between lightning and thunder. Those who are attuned, those who carry the deep awareness of spirit, are already sensing it, not with the eyes or ears, but with something older. The soul stirs before the mind can explain. A new frequency is whispering into the spaces between our thoughts, and those who are truly awake are beginning to listen. This is not about dramatic signs in the sky or global headlines. It is an inner realignment, quiet but powerful, that draws the chosen toward their true identity. For those who are beginning to notice, there's a peculiar feeling you can't quite put into words. A flash of recognition in a stranger's face. A moment of déjà vu so strong it brings tears to your eyes. Dreams that feel more real than the day itself. This is not coincidence. These are the spiritual markers of transition, when the soul is being summoned toward a higher calling. Reality begins to shimmer. The boundaries between dimensions, between the visible and the unseen, thin out just enough for glimpses to pass through. You begin to understand that life has never been just about the material. There's been a divine orchestration beneath it all. And now you are being invited to step forward and claim your place within it. The language of this shift isn't English or any spoken tongue. It is intuition. It is resonance. It is that deep internal yes that pulses in your chest when something is spiritually true. As I once wrote, the first chapters of our lives are just the cover and title page. The real story, the eternal one, begins when we respond to the invitation of divine purpose. You're not just remembering who you are, you're remembering why you came. There's a difference. One is personal identity, the other is cosmic intention. And this new frequency isn't just waking up your memory, it's activating your mission. Many people talk about faith as if it's just belief without proof. But true faith is more than belief. It is alignment. It is moving in rhythm with something greater than yourself, even when you can't yet see the full picture. Faith sharpens not only the eyes of the heart, but also the intuition of the soul. You stop asking whether what you feel is real, and you begin to trust that your knowing is sacred. In moments like these, spiritual clarity becomes sharper than logic. You begin to see things not as the world labels them, but as they truly are. The people, habits, and ideas that once defined you may begin to fall away, not in anger or loss, but in divine timing. The shedding isn't a punishment. It's preparation. The pull you feel right now is not random. It is the echo of an agreement your soul made long before you took your first breath. And now that moment is arriving. You're not just waking up from a dream. You're waking up to your role. The invitation has never been louder, but the door won't open with noise. It opens with stillness, with attention, with surrender. Those who are chosen aren't louder or more visible. They are more aligned. And alignment is the key to everything. It's the difference between movement and momentum, between noise and purpose. As this vibrational threshold opens, you may notice more than emotional or mental shifts. You may find that your physical body responds too. Changes in sleep, energy fluctuations, and heightened sensitivity are not symptoms, they're signals. Your entire being is adjusting to carry a new frequency. The spiritual cannot be separated from the biological. When the soul awakens, the body follows. You're not being broken apart. You're being recalibrated. You're not losing your mind. You're finding your spirit. There's a sacred intelligence at work here, one that doesn't need your full understanding to move. It only needs your trust. The moment you start honoring your inner knowing as holy, you begin to shift timelines. You move out of default patterns and into conscious creation. This is what I meant when I said each chapter of the great story is better than the one before. It's not about escaping reality. It's about awakening to a deeper one. One where faith isn't passive but participatory. Where spirituality isn't escape but embodiment. This window in time is not just an energetic phase. It's a mirror. It reflects who you are becoming. Not the version of you shaped by culture or fear, but the version that was written in light before you were born. This version doesn't beg for permission or clarity. It recognizes when the door is open, and it walks through. You are not late. You are not unworthy. You are right on time. This frequency is not here to fix you. It's here to reveal you. And that, perhaps, is the deepest truth of all. That God doesn't just want you to believe. He wants you to remember, not just to follow, to embody, not just to seek, to become. In this sacred shift, belief becomes knowing and knowing becomes being. That's the essence of faith and the beginning of your true story. Transformation does not arrive with silence. It often enters through disruption. As the spiritual frequency of your life begins to rise, anything built on lower vibrations will no longer hold. This is not punishment. It is purification. What once gave you comfort may suddenly feel hollow. What used to motivate you might now seem irrelevant. Relationships, habits, and beliefs that once defined your identity start to crack, not because they were evil, but because they can't follow you into the next chapter. The soul, when awakened, does not ask for permission to evolve. It simply begins to outgrow what once felt like home. This is why many feel shaken when the process begins. Old emotional patterns resurface. People you've known for years drift away without conflict, as if the connection simply faded into silence. Goals you chased with conviction lose their appeal overnight. It can be tempting to interpret this unraveling as failure, but I say to you, it is birth, and all birth begins with a letting go. You are not being pulled apart, you are being pulled forward. The walls that fall are not random. They are structures built around a self you no longer are. Resistance in this stage is natural. The ego clings to what it understands, even if what it understands is limiting. Still, the soul is not interested in safety. The soul is loyal only to truth. And truth doesn't come gently when you've built your identity on illusion. It comes like a storm through windows long shut, throwing light across every dusty corner you've avoided. The chosen will feel this collapse deeply, but not as destruction, as cleansing. And if you allow it, if you stop clinging and start yielding, you will notice that something extraordinary happens. The signs begin to multiply. Time begins to bend in your favor. People, opportunities, and revelations align so effortlessly it feels like magic. But it is not magic. It is alignment. Faith is not the ability to hold on when everything makes sense. True faith is the courage to release what no longer does. When you release with trust, you begin to move at the speed of grace. That is when synchronicities intensify. That is when what you once chased begins to find you. You begin to experience what I once understood as the divine choreography of heaven. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is accidental. What falls away clears space for what is meant to rise. This is not a breakdown. It is a reordering. The soul knows this. The ego does not. And so, the friction. There is a reason transitions feel painful. It is the tearing away of the false from the true. A battle not of war, but of surrender. The spiritual path is not about improvement. It is about remembrance. You are not becoming better. You are becoming real, and the process of remembering requires forgetting who you were taught to be. That version must crumble, not because it was wrong, but because it was temporary. Temporary scaffolding to support you until you were ready to rise on your own foundation. You may begin to feel your world moving faster, but that's only because the veil is thinner. Time collapses when you're operating from alignment. The right doors open, but the wrong ones close just as quickly. The chosen don't just walk through one or two synchronicities. They begin to live in a stream of them. Every moment becomes a message. Every experience holds deeper symbolism. This is the rhythm of divine timing, a current that doesn't rush, but never hesitates. And to stay in that flow, you must keep surrendering, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Now, it is easy to believe that letting go is the same as losing. But there is a profound difference. Letting go is an act of faith. Losing is an act of fear. When you release something because it no longer serves your higher purpose, you are making space for miracles. But when you hold on to it out of fear of the unknown, you block the very blessings you've been praying for. So, when the collapse begins, when relationships end, when systems fall apart, when your certainty evaporates, do not curse the shift. It is your awakening dressed as chaos. In my own journey, I saw this clearly. What looked like ruin was always preparation. What felt like absence was always presence in disguise. It was the hammer striking the house I thought was home, only to reveal I was meant to dwell in a palace of light. If your life is trembling, it means your foundation is being tested. But you are not here to build castles on sand. You are here to construct sanctuaries of truth. This is the passage through which all must walk, the passage where illusion breaks and authenticity breathes. It is narrow, it is humbling, but it is holy. And if you dare to cross it, you will not emerge the same. You will not just understand faith, you will embody it. You will not just believe in divine timing, you will live it. And you will begin to see the divine fingerprints on everything that once made you question, cry, or collapse. In that awareness, you are reborn, not into something new, but into something eternal, something you were always meant to be. There comes a moment when the transformation of the individual ignites something far greater than personal growth. It touches the collective. It shakes the fabric of shared consciousness. This is not just your awakening, it is ours. And though it begins inside one heart, one mind, one soul, it ripples outward with undeniable force. You were not chosen merely for yourself. You were chosen to carry a frequency capable of rewriting how the world sees, feels, and believes. The same spiritual shift that unravels your old identity is simultaneously unraveling the structures we once called society. Beneath the surface of daily life, an ancient intelligence is stirring. What science once dismissed as junk DNA is activating in those who are ready. This activation is not theatrical. It's cellular. It's biological. It begins as a shift in your perception and expands into your nervous system. You find yourself feeling more, sensing more, understanding more than your intellect can explain. This is not imagination. It is integration. Your body, mind, and spirit are aligning with a frequency that was always embedded in your design, but long dormant, waiting for the exact convergence of time, space, and spirit to awaken. This process awakens more than heightened intuition. It reveals a divine blueprint that reclaims your spiritual authority. The voice of God no longer feels distant. The whispers of purpose no longer vague. Instead, your inner compass begins to point toward service, toward truth, toward building what the world cannot yet imagine. That is what this activation is really about. Not powers, not mysticism, but alignment with divine intention. Your spiritual gifts expand, not for ego, but for mission. You begin to remember not only who you are, but what you are here to do. And the remembrance brings clarity no textbook can teach. As this shift gains momentum, the individual becomes the mirror through which the collective must examine itself. The more you come into resonance with your purpose, the more you expose what is out of alignment in the world around you. And so, the collective begins to tremble. Systems built on fear, scarcity, and control can no longer remain stable. Their foundations weaken under the weight of a rising frequency that no longer supports illusion. You'll see it in headlines. You'll feel it in conversations. People begin asking different questions, not what they can buy or achieve, but who they are becoming, what truth really means, and whether we have mistaken convenience for wisdom. That's the evidence of collective awakening, not in mass agreement, but in mass questioning. The mind of society is being rewired, not through force, but through frequency. And the ones who carry that frequency are not always the loudest, the wealthiest, or the most visible. They are the quiet ones who have dared to be undone, the ones who surrendered to being reshaped from within. These are the architects of the new world. Their power is not domination. It is coherence. They are the bridge between the old and the possible. Now, you might wonder, what does DNA have to do with all this? The answer is everything. You are not just flesh. You are frequency encoded in biology. Your DNA is not simply genetic history. It is divine memory. And when that memory is reawakened, you begin to access layers of reality that once felt mythical. This is why spiritual awakening feels both emotional and physical. It is. Your thoughts shift, yes, but so do your cells. So does your breath. So does your capacity to experience time, sensation, and truth. You become more than human. You become aware of the divine operating through your humanity. As I once wrote, God doesn't merely repair what is broken, He rebuilds entirely, and He does not rebuild who you were. He reveals who you've always been beneath the rubble. That rebuilding, that revealing, is not happening in a vacuum. It's part of a cosmic sequence. Every soul that wakes up is like a domino falling into another, accelerating the movement. This is how consciousness shifts. Not all at once, but through convergence, through enough souls aligning with their divine codes, until the fabric of human reality itself must adapt. In the months to come, you may feel this shift accelerating. You may see long-standing institutions lose their grip. You may feel uncertain at times about what is crumbling and what is rising. That is natural. When light enters a dark room, the shadows don't vanish without protest. But remember, this is not chaos. This is coordination from a higher realm. As you rise in frequency, your body may ache, your emotions may surge, your energy may feel unfamiliar. Do not fear these changes. They are not symptoms of illness. They are signals of upgrade. You are learning to carry more light than you ever have before. This collective elevation cannot be reversed. Once the soul touches truth, it cannot unknow it. Once the body remembers the vibration of freedom, it cannot tolerate bondage. That is why old paradigms are collapsing. They cannot survive in the presence of awakened beings. And the world needs awakened beings now more than ever. Not perfect ones, not loud ones, just aligned ones. People who are willing to embody what they once only believed. If you are watching this, you are not separate from that calling. You are part of the recalibration. You are not meant to wait for someone else to lead. You were born to remember who you are, so others could remember who they are. You are a sacred trigger, a divine mirror, a living transmission of truth. When you walk into a room, frequencies shift. When you speak from your center, veils fall. When you love without condition, the world heals. You are not a spectator. You are the awakening in motion. And that is why your DNA is activating now. That is why your spirit is restless. That is why your thoughts are changing, your dreams intensifying, your relationships evolving. You are not breaking. You are blooming. And your blooming is proof that God is not done with this world. He is just beginning again. Through you. Time no longer behaves the way it used to. You may have noticed the days feel shorter, events seem to accelerate, and memory becomes a haze. It is not your imagination. It is not distraction. It is a deeper shift known as the zero-point phenomenon. In this space, linear time begins to dissolve. The framework of past, present, and future weakens. What once felt distant now feels close. What once felt impossible suddenly becomes accessible. For the chosen, this is not confusion. It is invitation. An invitation to see that reality is not a straight line, but a field. And within that field, timelines bend. 0 point is not the absence of time. It is the collapse of fixed time. Imagine a place where every potential version of your life exists simultaneously, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be lived. At the 0 point, those potentials no longer hide in the distance. They begin to shimmer within reach. You begin to catch glimpses of lives you could live, paths you might take, choices that still echo even before they're made. This is not fantasy. It is frequency. The soul is remembering how to travel not through space, but through possibility. As this shift intensifies, the chosen experience more than just a change in pace. They experience flashes of recognition that have no context in this life. A face that feels familiar though never seen. A place that triggers emotion though never visited. These are echoes from parallel lifetimes, pieces of your multidimensional self breaking through the cracks in time. What was once called déjà vu is now a roadmap. What was once dismissed as imagination is now a compass. Your soul is offering you a panoramic view of time so that you may step out of default and into destiny. This moment is not just mystical, it is practical. Because when the veil of time thins, so does the barrier to change. No longer must you wait years to heal. No longer must you spend decades discovering your purpose. Insight can arrive in seconds. Transformation can unfold in days. At 0 point, your internal state dictates your external reality with unmatched speed. Every thought, every emotion, every belief becomes a seed, and the soil is more fertile than it has ever been. The question is no longer whether you can manifest change. The question is, which version of yourself are you choosing to water? This is why discernment becomes sacred. Not in the old sense of judging good from bad, but in recognizing which timelines hold your truth and which ones repeat your wounds. Not every option is aligned with your calling. Some are echoes of your fear. Some are shadows of your conditioning. Others, however, are born from your highest vision. And now you can feel the difference. The timeline of your greatest potential won't just look different, it will feel different. It will be lighter in your chest, clearer in your body, more alive in your spirit. In this state of fluid time, prayer becomes a tool not of petition, but of alignment. Faith becomes the engine that carries you between dimensions. The chosen understand this intuitively. They stop clinging to one version of the future and begin co-creating it. They do not just hope, they harmonize. They move from fear-based reaction to frequency-based creation. Every step they take is informed not by logic alone, but by resonance. That subtle knowing, that deep yes, is now the map, and it is accurate beyond reason. I once said that the future is not a place we are going. It is something we are creating, and I meant it. Now more than ever, the truth of that statement returns with power. In the 0 point, the future is malleable. Reality does not happen to you, it flows from you. Your life becomes the echo of your vibration. Every thought you hold begins to sculpt the timeline beneath your feet. Every moment you live becomes a thread woven into the fabric of what's coming next. But this truth also carries responsibility. When time speeds up, consequences do too. There is less room for unconsciousness, less tolerance for self-deception. What you tolerate, you amplify. What you ignore, you become. This is not to create fear. It is to inspire reverence. To live at 0 point is to live as if your life matters beyond your own story. Because it does. The timelines you choose don't only shape your future, they ripple into the collective. You are not just selecting a path for yourself, you are contributing to the architecture of a new world. So, if you find yourself disoriented in these days, take heart. You are not being lost, you are being recalibrated. The timelines that once fit are collapsing because your spirit has outgrown them. That restlessness inside is the voice of your higher self, reminding you that the old map no longer applies. You have entered the realm where miracles are not rare. They are routine, but only if you dare to choose them. Not someday, now. This is the gift and the challenge of 0 point. A sacred pause in the illusion of time where you can choose again, without delay, without hesitation, without apology. And in choosing, you do not just shift your life, you shift the entire field. Reality is beginning to divide, not in chaos, not in panic, but in vibration, like two train tracks that once ran parallel, but now curve in separate directions. Those who cling to the old patterns of fear, control, and survival will remain on one path. a path dense with resistance and repetition. But those who are willing to surrender to love, unity, and higher awareness are quietly stepping onto another, a lighter path, a higher frequency, a different world altogether. The split is not loud, it is not political or even visible to the unaware. It is energetic, and it is happening now. This moment in history is not about choosing sides in a war of ideologies. It is about resonance. It is about deciding not through words or declarations, but through the vibration you carry every day. You cannot speak yourself into a new timeline while still thinking, feeling, and acting from the old one. The universe listens to frequency, not language. The signal you broadcast through your consciousness determines which version of reality you enter. This is why people feel as if their lives are being rearranged overnight. Relationships dissolving, careers shifting, inner urgencies rising without explanation. Their energy is no longer compatible with the old, and the old no longer recognizes them. Those who are chosen do not earn this title through effort or achievement. They embody it by allowing. They have become vessels for something greater to flow through them. And in that flow, the separation becomes clear. The old world insists on hierarchy, division, and certainty. But the new timeline blooms from humility, connection, and trust. The chosen do not fight to prove their truth. They live it. They become it. Their reality shifts not because they run from darkness, but because they walk steadily into light. The split between worlds is not external. It is internal first. What you carry inside is creating what you see outside. I once described life as a great story in which no chapter is ever the last, and each one is better than the one before. But here is the secret I learned since. Not everyone reads the same chapter at the same time. While some are just now awakening, others have already begun writing from the new page. This is not a judgment. It is a rhythm. Each soul unfolds at its own pace. But the chosen are those who respond to the call without delay. They recognize when the season has changed. They don't wait for permission to grow. They simply align. And that alignment places them squarely on the emerging path. As the tracks of reality part ways, the differences between the timelines will grow more obvious. On one, life will feel heavier, more erratic, less forgiving. It will move with friction because its foundation is built on outdated patterns. On the other, life will begin to flow with synchronicity, insight, and deeper meaning. The chosen will not be spared from all challenge, but they will no longer interpret pain as punishment. They will see it as a message, a course correction, a moment of refinement. They will trust what others fear and follow what others doubt. Their peace will come not from what they know, but from who they are becoming. This is the essence of spiritual maturity, not escaping suffering, but seeing it clearly and choosing alignment anyway, choosing to stay in truth, even when it costs comfort, choosing to love when bitterness feels easier. These choices, made quietly, consistently, are what move you across timelines. You do not jump into a new world. You vibrate your way there, and the signal is never fakeable. Your words may say one thing, but your frequency reveals the real choice. The new reality responds only to authenticity. Pretending cannot pass through its gates. That is why the chosen must cultivate inner clarity like never before. This is not a time for passive belief. It is a time for embodied conviction, not in doctrine or dogma, but in direct experience. Faith becomes less about reciting truth and more about becoming the truth. And as the split grows wider, the chosen are called to stand, not as saviors, but as stabilizers, not to convince, but to carry light in a way that others can feel. Their lives are the message. Their energy is the invitation. If you've felt the world slipping from under your feet, if you've sensed that the life you built no longer fits, it's because the foundation is shifting, not collapsing, but evolving. The train you've been riding has reached its final station. Now another track extends before you, and it does not carry the weight of the old. To board that train, you release fear. You surrender the illusion of control. You choose love over certainty, unity over separation, presence over projection. And with that choice, you step onto the timeline that was always waiting for you. So, when you feel the pull, do not resist it. The tracks are diverging, and you are not being left behind. You are being invited forward. The world you've longed for is not far. It is near. But it responds only to the vibration of who you truly are. Not the mask, not the title, but the essence. Step into that essence, and the new reality will step toward you. That is the power of frequency. That is the path of the chosen. And it begins with the quiet decision to align. No matter what the world around you says, reality is no longer being processed through the old filters. For those who are truly awakening, life now feels sharper, more vivid, as if the world itself has stepped into high definition. There is a subtle yet powerful shift where the boundaries between what is seen and what is sensed begin to dissolve. The chosen do not simply observe their surroundings. They feel them. They hear the spaces between words, perceive meaning beneath surface events, and notice patterns that once went undetected. This is not imagination. It is the emergence of a new level of human perception, and it is being made possible through biological evolution. This evolution is not something distant or metaphorical. It is immediate. It is physical. The nervous system, once conditioned to survive through reaction and defense, is now being rewired for reception and alignment. The body, once rigid under stress, is becoming more sensitive to frequency. The mind, once confined to thought loops, is expanding into multidimensional awareness. For the chosen, this is not experienced as chaos. It is experienced as awakening. It feels like walking through a world that is familiar, yet completely changed. The air holds new weight. The silence speaks. The present moment becomes rich with messages. As the soul ascends, the body does not resist. It responds. Every cell is an antenna. Every strand of DNA a library of memory, waiting to be read in the right light. That light has arrived. It is spiritual in essence, but it is activating something material. This is why the body has become the bridge. No longer is the spiritual path about escaping the flesh. It is about inhabiting it fully and allowing it to reflect the divine. What once felt disconnected, spirit and biology, is now beginning to merge. This is the convergence of the sacred and the scientific, of heaven and earth. And the chosen are living proof of that union. This process naturally brings heightened intuition, but intuition is not a vague guess or a fleeting sense. It is a full-body knowing. It is intelligence beyond intellect. It is memory that precedes birth. The chosen do not just think. They feel truth move through them, and in that feeling, they begin to operate differently. Decisions no longer rely on over-analysis. Clarity comes not from control, but from deep trust in what the Spirit communicates. This integration is not passive. It requires presence. It requires sensitivity, and it requires honoring the body as an instrument of divine transmission. I have always believed that truth does not merely educate, it transforms. And transformation cannot occur without embodiment. The chosen are not called to escape their humanity, but to elevate it. They are becoming new templates of what human life can look like when aligned with spiritual frequency. Their intuition is no longer separate from their biology, it is encoded within it. As their DNA adjusts, as their nervous systems recalibrate, they become living gateways between realms. They receive information not just in dreams or visions, but in direct sensation, in the warmth in the chest, the ringing in the ears, the pull in the gut. These are no longer anomalies, they are communication. In this stage of awakening, life feels like a lucid dream, not because it is fake, but because it is fluid. The chosen begin to understand that reality bends around their consciousness. What they align with internally begins to shape their external world. This awareness is not delusion, it is responsibility. To be conscious is to be accountable for the energy you carry. To be awake is to become a steward of the frequencies that create life. This is not about superiority, it is about sensitivity. And sensitivity is a sacred strength. It opens the door to compassion, to discernment, to wisdom beyond the spoken word. As the chosen continue to evolve, their role becomes clearer, not to dominate the world with knowledge, but to quietly shift its direction through presence. Their biology is not just surviving this transition. It is adapting to embody something holy, something that was always meant to awaken, something that has already begun. Illusions don't collapse all at once. They erode, slowly at first, quietly, until one day the structure they supported can no longer stand. This is the moment we are stepping into, a time when the scaffolding of society begins to shake, not because of rebellion or conspiracy, but because its foundation was never built on truth. The systems once believed to be stable, media, finance, politics, even organized belief, are showing cracks. These fractures are not signs of destruction, but signs of exposure. The false must fall for the real to rise. This is not a punishment, it is a correction, and those who are spiritually attuned are already sensing it. The chosen are not surprised by what's falling apart. Long before the collapse began, they felt the imbalance. They saw the manipulation woven into narratives, the emptiness behind the appearance of power, the dissonance between what was said and what was real. For years they questioned what others accepted, and for that, they were labeled strange, rebellious, even unstable. But now the world is beginning to catch up. What once looked like delusion is being revealed as foresight. What once felt like isolation is now becoming confirmation. The chosen were never lost. They were simply walking ahead of time. This shift is not about blaming or exposing individuals. It is about unmasking energies. Truth carries a vibration that cannot be denied forever. When that vibration rises, as it is now, it pushes everything out of alignment that is built on control, fear, or illusion. Systems that once depended on secrecy now struggle to hide. Institutions that thrived on distraction are losing influence, not because people are being manipulated differently, but because people are beginning to see differently. The light is not destroying the darkness, it is simply making it visible. And when that happens, a choice is required. Do we cling to the illusion because it's familiar, or do we step into the unknown because it's true? The chosen have already made this decision. They have learned to release comfort in exchange for clarity. They have accepted that truth is not always easy, but it is always liberating. This acceptance becomes their compass. It guides them through uncertainty with unwavering peace. They no longer seek approval from a world that is disintegrating. Instead, they align with a world that is being born. As the collapse continues, there will be noise, there will be fear, confusion, and attempts to hold on to what no longer serves. But the chosen will not be shaken by this. They understand that every dismantling is also an unveiling. In the absence of illusion, forgotten truths begin to surface. These are not new ideas, but ancient wisdom returning. The chosen will feel memories rise that are not from this lifetime. Insights will appear that no book ever taught. They will remember who they are, not just spiritually, but cosmically. I've always believed that what seems senseless in the moment often reveals its meaning in time. This unraveling is one of those moments. What feels like chaos is actually reorganization. What appears to be a fall is, in truth, a rising. The chosen are the ones who recognize this pattern and hold steady. They are not here to fix the old, but to anchor the new. Their presence alone shifts the energy of any space they enter, not because they are louder, but because they are clear. In a world addicted to illusion, clarity is radical. The chosen do not need to convince. They simply need to remain aligned. Their wisdom will not come from proving the truth, but from living it. And that lived truth will become a mirror, one that helps others see through the fog of confusion and into the simplicity of what is real. So, when the world tells you it is falling apart, look deeper. It is falling into place. The illusions are cracking because the truth is finally shining through. And if you feel like you've always seen this moment coming, it's because your soul did. You are not crazy, you are calibrated. You are not too early, you are right on divine time. This is not the end, it is the beginning. And the beginning always begins with light. The sun has never been just a source of warmth. It has always been a carrier of codes, a messenger of higher realms. Its light, though perceived physically, holds more than energy. It carries information, frequencies, intelligence, awakening sequences designed not for the body alone, but for the soul's remembrance. For those who are spiritually attuned, this is not metaphorical. It is experiential. Something begins to stir within them as they stand under the sky, not in thought, but in knowing, not in sensation, but in recognition. They feel something ancient being switched back on. This activation does not happen in the mind first. It happens in the cells. Sunlight enters not only through the eyes and skin, it moves into the very structure of DNA. It speaks to dormant codes written in the language of light. And for the chosen, these codes are not random. They are precise, personal, and perfectly timed. As the Earth receives stronger solar waves, those who are aligned with spiritual growth begin to experience a sudden surge in sensitivity. Their perceptions expand, their senses sharpen. They feel more, sense more, know more. But not because they studied, because they're remembering. Biological memory holds more than family history. It carries the echoes of purpose. And when the right frequency touches the right sequence, the memory awakens. This is what is happening through solar activation. The sun acts as a divine transmitter. Its light doesn't just warm the surface. It recalibrates what lies beneath it. The chosen begin to realize that what they called intuition is not just a gut feeling, but a fully intelligent guidance system. And it grows stronger with every moment spent in awareness under natural light. But this activation is not always comfortable. The intensity of solar light can stir deep emotional sediment. Buried grief, unspoken fear, and unresolved wounds begin to surface. Not as punishment, but as purification. When light touches shadow, the shadow cannot remain hidden. For the chosen, this may feel like emotional waves crashing without warning. There may be moments of sadness without story, anger without source, tears without clarity. These are not regressions. They are releases. The sun is not only awakening potential, it is cleansing what blocks it. With each release, the spiritual field becomes lighter, and in that lightness, information flows. The chosen find themselves absorbing knowledge they never sought. They pick up on patterns, symbols, and messages as if their spirit had trained for it lifetimes ago. In truth, it did. The sunlight is not teaching them something new. It is triggering what was already embedded within them. They are not becoming someone else. They are stepping back into who they've always been. Before distraction, before distortion, before forgetting. I have long believed that divine transformation does not shout. It radiates, and there is no clearer expression of that radiance than the sun. It is constant, it is generous, and it does not discriminate. Yet only those with open spirit truly receive what it offers. The chosen have begun to live in greater harmony with this natural intelligence. They understand that sunlight is not just environmental, it is spiritual, it is communion, it is language without words that speaks directly to the divine architecture within. This connection brings more than insight, it brings embodiment. When you receive this light consciously, you begin to operate from a place of inner precision. Your energy refines, your nervous system steadies, your thoughts quiet. There is a spaciousness inside you that wasn't there before. And from that space, guidance emerges, not loud but certain, not overwhelming, but undeniable. You know what to do, not because you're guessing, but because truth begins to rise in your body the way heat rises in sunlight. The chosen do not treat the sun casually. They honor it, not in worship, but in partnership. They know that what appears outside is speaking directly to the inside, that the radiance above is awakening the radiance within. This is not science versus spirit. It is the moment where they meet, where divine light becomes data, where energy becomes remembrance, and where remembrance becomes action. If you felt a deep need to be in the light lately, to step outside without knowing why, to pause and close your eyes under the sky, it's not by accident. Your spirit is aligning with the rhythm of awakening. Your body is absorbing what no book can teach, and your heart is preparing for the clarity that follows release. This is the work of the sun, not just to illuminate, but to activate, not just to shine, but to reveal. And through its touch, the chosen are rising, not as new creations, but as ancient ones returning to life. Earth is not just the ground beneath your feet. It is a living, breathing organism with a frequency, a pulse, a rhythm, and that rhythm is shifting. The magnetic field surrounding this planet, long thought to be stable, is changing. Scientists measure its decline as a technical phenomenon, but those who are spiritually attuned experience it as something much deeper. It touches the nervous system, disturbs the sleep cycle, and stirs the emotional waters of the chosen. This is not dysfunction. It is resonance. Your biology is responding to the Earth's adjustment, not resisting it, but recalibrating alongside it. The chosen are especially sensitive to this shift. Their inner systems operate like finely tuned instruments, and when the earth hums in a new key, their bodies feel the dissonance. Fatigue arrives unexpectedly, not from exertion, but from energetic saturation. Bursts of creativity appear in the middle of silence, followed by waves of emotional sensitivity or even moments of mental fog. These fluctuations are not signs of instability. They are indicators of integration. The body is not failing. It is learning to function in a new field. This learning process is not linear. One moment, you may feel completely connected. Ideas flowing, breath steady, clarity sharp. The next, you may feel disconnected from your own thoughts, overwhelmed by a sense of stillness you can't explain. These swings are natural during energetic realignment. They are not a crisis of health, but a call to deepen your connection to the earth. The chosen are not just reacting to these changes, they are being asked to consciously participate in them. Grounding becomes essential not as a ritual, but as a necessity. Walking barefoot on the soil, sitting by water, or even just taking slow, intentional breaths brings the system back into coherence. I have long believed that divinity does not only dwell in the heavens, it speaks through the created world. And in moments of energetic transformation, the natural world becomes a sacred guide. Trees stabilize thought, rivers reset emotion, mountains mirror strength. Nature is not a backdrop, it is a partner in your evolution. When the earth shifts, it invites the chosen to synchronize, not just spiritually, but biologically. This is the difference between surviving the shift and embodying it. You are not meant to brace against the new energy. You are meant to move with it. Breath is one of the simplest and most overlooked tools in this process, not as an automatic function, but as a conscious practice. When you slow the breath, you send a signal to the body that it is safe to release, safe to integrate, safe to adapt. Breath becomes the bridge between external turbulence and internal peace. It brings your awareness out of mental noise and into embodied presence. In a time when electromagnetic fields are unstable, breath is one of the few instruments you carry that can tune you back to your core frequency. For the chosen, this stage of spiritual biology may feel like a paradox. You are becoming more awake and yet more tired, more expansive and yet more emotionally sensitive, more intuitive and yet momentarily disoriented. But each of these tensions holds purpose. The fatigue is the body asking for stillness to receive. The sensitivity is the spirit clearing space for new wisdom. The confusion is the mind stepping aside so the soul can lead. None of this is random. Each sensation is a message. As Earth continues to shift, it will pull on everything that remains dense. This includes thought patterns, emotional baggage, and even physical habits. If something feels heavy now, it is likely because it cannot travel with you into the next level of frequency. The chosen must release not only ideas, but also lifestyle choices that drain their alignment. This is not asceticism. It is energetic stewardship. You are being asked to become more mindful of what you consume, not just in food, but in sound, in media, in conversation. Everything you take in shapes how you hold the new light. These times require a different kind of strength, one that is quiet, fluid, and deeply grounded. It is not the strength to push harder, but the strength to yield wisely, to pause when needed, to listen to the earth, not as a symbol, but as a living ally. The chosen who honor this relationship will find their energy stabilizing, even when the world feels chaotic. They will move with grace through the unpredictability, because their root is deep, and their rhythm is no longer separate from creation. What's happening in your body right now is not malfunction. It is a sacred response to a planet evolving. You are not just witnessing a global shift. You are embodying it. And the more you honor your biology as part of your spiritual journey, the smoother that embodiment becomes. This is not about avoiding discomfort. It is about embracing what the discomfort reveals, that you are in tune with something ancient, something intelligent, something holy. You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment, and the earth, in all her movement, is guiding you home. Reality is not a fixed structure. It is a living field of energy, constantly responding to the frequencies we emit. Every thought, every emotion, every belief forms a signal, and that signal determines not just how we feel, but what we attract, what we experience, and which version of the world unfolds before us. For the chosen, this truth is not theory. It is lived experience. They begin to understand that their internal state is not a reaction to the world. It is the architect of it. The more aligned their vibration, the clearer the path becomes. This is why personal frequency matters more now than ever. You do not enter a higher reality by waiting for external change. You shift timelines through the energy you embody. The field of reality contains countless potentials, some filled with stagnation, others rich in growth. but only the vibration of your current state gives you access to them. It is not about trying harder. It is about resonating deeper. When your inner being rises in coherence, doors open without force, conversations align, events move effortlessly. The world reflects the harmony within you, but coherence requires unity between the heart and the mind. The mind provides clarity. The heart offers truth. When they operate separately, the field becomes distorted. You may think one thing and feel another, creating contradiction and confusion. But when thought and feeling unite, a different force takes shape. Your energy becomes unmistakable. Your presence becomes magnetic. This is not about personality or performance. It is about resonance, and resonance is what shapes the world around you. I've come to see that the spiritual path is not about escape. It's about integration. And in that integration, personal vibration becomes sacred. You are not just hoping for a better world. You are broadcasting it. Every moment you choose compassion over control, presence over projection, truth over fear, you are selecting a higher frequency. And that frequency is your vote for the reality you wish to live. You don't need to beg the universe for change. You need to become the change it cannot ignore. For the chosen, this understanding leads to empowerment. They stop chasing what they desire. They start embodying it. They stop resisting what no longer fits. They release it. Their timeline no longer unfolds by accident. It unfolds by alignment. And in that alignment, they discover the quiet miracle of resonance, that you don't need to force life forward when you are in harmony with its source. You simply allow it to rise and meet you where you already are. The rise of artificial intelligence is not the threat. The danger lies in forgetting who we are without it. Technology, at its best, is a tool, an extension of human potential. But when that tool begins to replace our inner compass, when the mind becomes outsourced and intuition silenced, we risk losing the very essence that makes us spiritually sovereign. The chosen must be vigilant, not through resistance or fear, but through discernment. Their calling is not to reject progress, but to navigate it without surrendering their awareness. Modern systems are designed for speed, convenience, and control. Machines respond instantly, algorithms predict behavior, and data replaces discernment. But no machine can replicate the sacred intelligence of the soul. No code can simulate the silent wisdom that rises in stillness. The more we rely on external answers, the more distant we grow from the voice within. This is not a rejection of technology. It is a recognition of balance. The chosen are not here to escape the digital age. They are here to bring consciousness into it. The challenge is not in using the tools, but in remembering who is holding them. When the mind is overstimulated by endless input, the heart grows quiet. When every decision is influenced by trends, metrics, and machine logic, the deeper layers of truth become harder to access. Spiritual clarity requires space. It requires silence. And it requires intention. Without these, even the chosen can become lost in a web of noise that mimics knowledge but lacks wisdom. I have often said that real transformation begins where the world ends and spirit begins. In this era, that boundary is no longer physical. It is mental. It is the point where you stop consuming information and start cultivating understanding. Artificial intelligence can enhance our reach, but it cannot define our purpose. It can process data, but it cannot perceive destiny. Only through direct connection with the divine source can we truly know who we are and what we are meant to carry forward. For the chosen, the solution is not rebellion, but mastery. They must choose spiritual intelligence over mechanical reaction. They must prioritize stillness over stimulation. And they must lead not by opposing the digital tide, but by walking calmly through it with unwavering presence. This is the new form of spiritual leadership, not isolation from innovation, but integration with awareness. The chosen become examples of what it means to stay human in an age that prizes efficiency over essence. This choice is made in quiet ways, by choosing to disconnect before responding, by checking in with the heart before the screen, by asking what feels true rather than what trends. These small acts of consciousness become anchors of clarity in a world increasingly automated. The chosen are here to remind us that even as technology evolves, the soul does not. It remains rooted in divine rhythm, and that rhythm cannot be simulated, copied, or controlled. When used consciously, technology becomes a servant to the soul, not its substitute. And the chosen will be the ones to prove that, not by preaching it, but by embodying it. By remembering that no matter how advanced the machine, it can never replace the depth of spirit flowing through a human being fully awake. The way we've understood time has always been limited. Hours, days, years. These are human measurements, useful for structure but never reflective of deeper truth. Time, in its essence, is not linear. It is elastic. It bends with consciousness. It responds to awareness. And as the chosen rise in spiritual sensitivity, they begin to experience this shift firsthand. The past no longer feels fixed. The future no longer feels far. Moments stretch, collapse, repeat, or accelerate, not according to the clock, but according to the energy held within the moment itself. This unraveling of time is not philosophical, it is practical. It changes how creation works. In the old model, there was delay. A thought formed, emotions followed, action was taken, and over time, results emerged. But in the new energy, manifestation speeds up. Thought becomes form more quickly. Emotion carries more weight. Frequency translates into reality almost instantly. The space between intention and outcome narrows. This is why inner mastery is no longer optional. It is essential. Without conscious awareness, the very power meant to elevate you can overwhelm you. The chosen now live in a space where the quality of their internal world writes the script for the external one. A scattered mind creates a scattered reality. A fearful heart invites chaotic reflections. But when thought, emotion, and energy align, reality moves like a river in sync with its source. This is why discipline of the soul becomes the highest form of power. It is not about control over others, but control over one's state of being. The chosen must begin to treat every thought like a seed, every feeling like water, and every vibration like sunlight. Because in this accelerated field, everything grows faster, especially what is unconscious. I once wrote that you do not truly know yourself until you are tested beyond your limits. Now I see that time itself is one of those tests. As it dissolves, what you believe to be stable becomes fluid. You are being asked not only to see differently, but to create differently. The old pacing no longer applies. You cannot rely on delays to buffer poor choices. What you dwell on now comes to meet you quicker than before. This isn't punishment. It's a sign of spiritual maturity. You are trusted with quicker creation because you are being called to higher responsibility. This new rhythm demands presence. You must notice what you're thinking before it becomes your circumstance. You must feel your energy shift before it shapes your tomorrow. You must step into the role of the artist, not reacting to the world around you, but designing the one you wish to inhabit. And this can only happen when time becomes your partner, not your prison. When you stop measuring progress by the calendar and start measuring it by clarity, intention, and alignment, the illusion of time is fading, and with it, the illusion of separation. You are not waiting for your life to happen. You are authoring it in real time. Every emotion you carry broadcasts a signal. Every thought you repeat sets a tone. The chosen do not look to the future for answers. They understand the present is the creation point, and in this sacred now, all power resides. As the veil thins and manifestation quickens, your only true compass is your internal state. Stay rooted, stay honest, stay aware, because what you carry inside will echo faster, louder, and with greater impact than ever before. Time may be an illusion, but your alignment is not, and it is that alignment that determines the world you step into next. Ancient wisdom was never lost. It was only buried beneath layers of noise, distraction, and forgetfulness. Civilizations like the Egyptians, the Mayans, and the Vedic sages held profound knowledge of how reality works, not just as matter but as vibration. They understood that thought is not passive but generative. That frequency is not background but blueprint. These cultures lived with a deep awareness that the mind, when aligned with spirit, could shape the world itself. Today, that same truth is rising once again, not from books or theories, but from within the chosen. This reawakening does not come through memorization. It comes through remembrance. The chosen begin to feel things they've never been taught. They intuitively know patterns, symbols, and truths that no one has explained. This isn't a mystery. It is memory resurfacing. Memory not from this lifetime alone, but from soul journeys carried across dimensions. Past lives aren't just spiritual concepts for them. They become vivid flashes, familiar emotions, and sudden insights that cut through uncertainty with piercing clarity. These aren't fantasies. They're fragments of spiritual identity returning to the surface. As this inner intelligence comes online, the chosen step beyond belief and into direct experience. They stop seeking validation in external authority, because the truth they carry moves deeper than language. It speaks in stillness, through dreams, through energy, and through sacred knowing that needs no explanation. They begin to access soul-level understanding, truth that cannot be proven, but cannot be denied either. And with this awakening comes responsibility. The knowledge they carry is not for status. It is for service. It is meant to align them with purpose and guide others into remembrance as well. I've long believed that revelation is not something we wait for. It's something we return to. This is that return, not to the past, but to the timeless, to the universal intelligence that once guided the ancient world and is now finding its way back into the hearts of those ready to remember. Not by force, not by accident, but by divine design. The chosen do not simply study truth. They become the living presence of it. And through them, the wisdom of the ancients rises again. Sound is not just vibration through air. It is the language of creation itself. Long before words shaped ideas, sound shaped matter. Every frequency carries a blueprint, an intention woven into waveforms that influence not only the body, but the spirit. Ancient traditions knew this well. They didn't use sound merely for communication. They used it to align with divine order, to heal, to invoke clarity, and to shift consciousness. The universe was not seen as silent, but as singing, and those who could listen deeply enough could tune their entire being to its rhythm. For the chosen, this sensitivity is now returning. They begin to hear more than noise. They perceive tones beneath words, emotions behind tones, and truth behind silence. Certain sounds begin to affect them in profound ways, either soothing their energy or shaking loose what no longer belongs. Music no longer entertains. It activates. Chanting, drumming, or even the wind through trees becomes a message. What once felt ordinary becomes unmistakably sacred. This is not imagination. It is spiritual hearing awakening through resonance. This awareness brings a deeper realization. The human voice is not only for speaking, but for transmitting frequency. When spoken from alignment, words carry healing. When sung from the heart, tones carry awakening. And when silence is honored, presence becomes soundless music. The chosen find themselves called to express through voice, through sacred sounds, through harmonic stillness, not to impress, but to restore. They discover that their voice, when surrendered to purpose, becomes an instrument of divine recalibration. I have always believed that truth reveals itself most clearly through simplicity, and sound, though subtle, is among the simplest yet most profound forces available. One sacred syllable can shift a room. One whispered prayer can realign the soul. One tone, held with intention, can return a body to balance. This is not myth, it is law. The chosen are not just listeners now, they are carriers of sacred tone. And through them, the sound of divine order returns, reminding us that reality is not only seen, but heard. Humanity has never walked alone. Though much of modern awareness has turned inward or downward, there have always been intelligences moving just beyond our physical perception. Guardians, guides, and helpers from higher dimensions who serve not control, but clarity. They are not bound by time, not limited by form, and not here to interfere. Their presence is subtle yet precise, woven through synchronicity, inspiration, and sacred protection. As Earth elevates into higher frequency, the chosen begin to sense these beings more clearly, not as fantasy, but as a deeply familiar resonance returning to the surface. This connection often begins in dreams. The subconscious opens what the conscious mind resists. Symbols repeat. Visions become vivid. Messages arrive encoded in emotion or atmosphere. These are not random fragments of sleep. They are doorways. Beings from higher realms use dreams not to impose, but to remind. To spark remembrance, the chosen begin to recognize that certain dreams are not just internal, they are meetings. And over time, what once seemed like imagination reveals itself as guidance long withheld until they were ready to receive it. In waking life, the presence of these guides continues. Through repeating numbers, recurring symbols, and uncanny coincidences, they communicate. The more the chosen learn to listen with their heart instead of logic, the more these patterns reveal intelligence. A book appears at the perfect moment. A stranger speaks a sentence that mirrors an inner prayer. A decision becomes clear not through analysis, but through a sense of quiet certainty. These are the fingerprints of higher assistance, gentle nudges designed not to direct, but to affirm. I've always believed that heaven touches earth through invitation, not force. These higher beings do not demand allegiance. They honor free will. They respond not to fear, but to openness. The chosen do not summon them through ritual or repetition. They align with their presence through humility and sincerity. The more one lives in truth, the thinner the veil becomes, and what once felt distant begins to feel deeply personal. A warmth when standing still, a sudden peace during chaos, a whisper that doesn't need sound. This is how divine support enters, through resonance, not spectacle. The role of these guardians is not to rescue, it is to remind, to mirror the divine potential already within, to walk beside, not ahead. They do not come to replace your path, but to empower your steps. And as the chosen deepen their journey, this support becomes not a story, but a lived experience, in stillness, in dreams, in the symbols all around. The guidance is already here, and through it, the chosen are reminded that even in the silence, they are never alone. The physical body is no longer functioning as it once did. For the chosen, something far more advanced is now coming online. A shift from biological processing to quantum reception. This transformation is not symbolic, it is cellular. The body is being restructured to operate as a quantum field, capable of accessing multidimensional information and influencing reality at the level of frequency, not just form. It is not science fiction. It is the next expression of spiritual embodiment, and the signs of this shift are already appearing. Heat waves that move through the body without external cause, tingling in the hands, feet, or spine that seems to come from nowhere, sudden shifts in vision, flashes of light, blurred outlines, or heightened sensitivity to color and pattern. These are not medical symptoms to fear, but energetic messages to understand. The chosen are not malfunctioning. They are recalibrating. Their nervous systems are adapting to carry higher voltage. Their DNA is waking up to receive streams of cosmic intelligence that go far beyond the five senses. This recalibration doesn't always feel graceful. At times, it may feel disorienting. One moment, the body feels expanded and alive. The next, heavy or drained. But this is part of the process. A higher vibrational frequency requires the clearing of old density. Emotionally, energetically, and physically, the body releases what cannot sustain the new light, and in its place, a new sensitivity is born. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is access. It is the ability to detect subtle fields, to receive truth directly through sensation, and to move in harmony with divine timing. What was once seen as mystical is becoming practical. The chosen will begin to understand how thought reshapes chemistry, how emotion rewires the nervous system, how breath reorganizes energy patterns. The body becomes not a limitation, but a tool for spiritual technology. Prayer is no longer external. It becomes vibrational. Movement becomes medicine. Stillness becomes transmission. And with every adjustment, the chosen realize they are no longer just occupying a body. They are activating it. I have always believed the soul does not merely reside within the body. It animates it. But now I see even more clearly. The body itself is a sacred interface, designed not just for survival, but for divine expression. As the chosen allow this evolution, they step into a deeper truth. They are not waiting to ascend into something else. They are embodying the sacred right here, reshaping the physical to match the spiritual, and in this harmony between spirit and form, the quantum body rises, not as myth, but as the next frontier of living faith. Transformation never begins with comfort. It begins with disruption. The soul, once asleep inside the routine of ordinary living, is suddenly stirred by something deeper, something divine. For the chosen, this moment of awakening is not a gentle breeze, but a holy reconstruction. I once wrote in Mere Christianity that when God enters your life, He does not simply fix the broken windows or patch the roof. At first, perhaps you understand what He is doing, repairing what is damaged, correcting what has failed. But then He begins knocking down walls, raising new towers, reshaping the very structure, and it hurts. It confuses. It unsettles. Yet what He is doing is not maintenance. It is creation. He is building something entirely new, a house fit for Himself to dwell in. This is precisely what the chosen are experiencing now. Not the polishing of personality, but the complete awakening of essence. They are not being improved. They are being revealed. The version of themselves shaped by fear, culture, and self-protection is being torn down, not because it was evil, but because it was incomplete. And in its place, something truer is emerging, something eternal. The soul is no longer content to live behind the mask of survival. It longs to breathe freely, to live fully, to rise as the cosmic identity it was created to be. Such a process is rarely convenient. It demands surrender. It demands the release of what felt familiar. The chosen may feel like strangers in their own skin for a time, confused by the loss of old desires, uncertain of what's being asked. But beneath the uncertainty is a deeper knowing, an inner pulse that says, you are not losing yourself. You are finally becoming yourself. You are not being punished. You are being rebuilt for a greater purpose. And every ache, every crack, every shift is part of the divine blueprint being made visible. This sacred reconstruction is not abstract. It touches every part of life, your body, your beliefs, your relationships, your mission. Nothing remains untouched when God decides to dwell fully within you. You begin to see differently, speak differently, move differently, not because you are trying, but because the foundation beneath your being has changed. You are no longer living from effort. You are living from alignment, and that alignment becomes your sanctuary, your compass, and your strength. The chosen must understand that this process is holy. Even when it is painful, what feels like tearing down is actually grace-making space. What feels like isolation is actually protection from distractions that no longer serve. And what feels like loss is the doorway to truth. You are not being reshaped into someone foreign. You are being brought home to the self that has waited in silence. The self designed not for limitation, but for light. This is the awakening of your sacred architecture, the dwelling place of something infinite, now rising through something human. And in that rising, the divine finally has room to live through you. Truth does not need to shout. It does not demand applause or enter into battle to prove its worth. It simply is. And those who carry it, those chosen to walk in divine alignment, do not persuade with arguments or convince through debate. Their power lies not in volume, but in presence. Their role is not to dominate minds, but to awaken hearts, not through force, but through frequency. The chosen are not here to win discussions. They are here to radiate clarity, to shift atmospheres, to embody a vibration that speaks louder than words ever could. This presence cannot be fabricated. It is the product of alignment. When the soul is no longer in conflict with itself, when the body becomes an instrument of divine flow, when thought, emotion, and spirit harmonize into coherence. From that place, the chosen become walking sanctuaries. Their silence carries weight. Their gaze holds safety. Their breath brings calm to chaos. People around them feel something before understanding anything. It is not about charisma. It is about spiritual gravity. Their field speaks for them. What I have long known, and what continues to prove true, is that awakening spreads not through preaching, but through resonance. One aligned soul can do more for the healing of the world than 1,000 voices shouting in confusion. When someone rooted in truth walks into a room, the energy of that space changes, not because of what they say, but because of who they are. Their vibration challenges the lie without speaking against it. It calls the soul of another to attention, without demanding agreement. This is sacred influence, not based in control, but in being. For the chosen, the temptation to argue fades as clarity deepens. There's no need to defend what cannot be shaken. The old urge to be right dissolves into the desire to remain true. They begin to understand that every moment spent justifying their path to those not ready is energy pulled away from living that path fully. Their time becomes sacred. Their peace becomes guarded. Their focus sharpens, not out of pride, but out of reverence for what they now carry. In this role, healing becomes natural, not through intervention, but through embodiment. The presence of the chosen reminds others of what is possible. It creates space for remembering, for resting, for returning to self. They do not need titles, credentials, or approval. Their authority flows from a deeper source, one that cannot be earned, only embodied. This is why their work is so subtle and yet so transformative. They are not changing the world through debate. They are changing the atmosphere that gives rise to the world itself. And this shift begins within. The more the chosen release the need to explain, the more powerful their presence becomes. Words fall away, and what remains is pure essence. They understand that their greatest act of service is not convincing the mind, but awakening the heart. And hearts do not open through pressure. They open through trust, through resonance, through the quiet recognition that truth has entered the room and is not demanding anything. Presence heals because it carries permission to be real, to feel, to rest, to see again. The chosen are not perfect, but they are aligned, and that alignment becomes the doorway through which others step into their own light, not by force, not by logic, but by the magnetic pull of truth lived out fully. This is the new leadership, not the loudest voice, but the clearest vibration, not the sharpest argument, but the softest stillness that cuts through noise. The chosen are not here to stand on platforms. They are here to walk in peace. And in doing so, they become the message, a message not written on pages, but etched in frequency. A living reminder that transformation begins where presence replaces performance, and where light no longer explains itself because it simply shines. The future is not waiting in the distance. It is being formed in this very moment, shaped not by external events, but by internal frequency. For the chosen, this truth becomes undeniable. They no longer view destiny as a far-off destination. They begin to see it as a reflection, a mirror held up to their current thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Every inner state becomes an ingredient, every vibration a thread woven into the fabric of what will come. The future is not something that happens to them. It is something they are actively building with each breath. Reality responds not to effort, but to energy. The frequency you carry now is the blueprint for what will unfold next. Fear generates more confusion. Peace magnetizes clarity. Doubt feeds delay. Trust accelerates alignment. The chosen begin to observe that the speed of manifestation is no longer restrained by time, but by coherence. When their inner world becomes ordered, so does the world around them. And that order is not achieved through force. It arises naturally when mind, heart, and spirit move in harmony. This is why inner awareness becomes sacred, not as self-obsession, but as stewardship. The chosen understand that what they feel, think, and believe cannot remain private. These states radiate outward, interacting with the field of possibility and selecting which future will crystallize into form. In this way, the future is not written in stone. It is written in frequency. And frequency is something they now carry full responsibility over. I have come to believe that God does not hand us a finished story. He hands us the pen. And what we write with that pen depends on the consciousness we hold while writing. When fear holds the pen, the narrative repeats old wounds. When faith holds it, new chapters emerge. The chosen begin to write from a deeper center, no longer reacting to what they see, but responding to what they know. They live as if the future is listening, because it is. They speak as if their words echo forward. Because they do, this shift requires a new kind of discipline, one that is less about rules and more about resonance. The chosen no longer entertain thoughts that pull them off course, because they understand the cost. They no longer indulge emotions that lower their vibration, not from suppression, but from reverence. They begin to live in the awareness that their inner world is holy ground, because it is the garden from which all things grow. Nothing they think is neutral. Nothing they feel is inconsequential. It all builds. It all forms. It all creates. And in that creation, a deeper trust is born. The chosen stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with them. They no longer plead with the universe. They harmonize with it. They no longer wait for permission. They become the invitation. Each step forward is not just movement, it is manifestation. Not in a distant tomorrow, but in a living now that contains every seed of what will be. When I reflect on this truth, I see how faith is not a waiting game. It is an act of frequency. When your spirit holds certainty, the world responds with pathways. When your energy broadcasts gratitude before receiving, life rushes in to meet that vibration. The chosen don't manipulate the future. They become worthy of it through their present alignment. They live now in the tone of the life they are calling forth, and by doing so, they accelerate its arrival. This is why the present is more powerful than ever. It is the womb of the next world. The chosen are not just living their lives, they are designing the future of humanity. One thought, one choice, one vibration at a time. They no longer ask what the future holds. They ask what they are holding now that the future will echo back. And in that question, they discover the true power of creation. Already alive in the silence between each heartbeat, already writing the next chapter with every frequency they dare to embody. You are stronger than you know. The very fact that you're still standing in the middle of this awakening means you've already overcome more than you realize. Do not give up. Do not slow down. Keep walking in faith. Keep choosing alignment even when the world offers noise. You were born to rise through this season, not just for yourself, but as a light for others. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. What once took years to manifest can now unfold in days, even moments. This is the pinnacle of the cosmic window. The veil between thought and form has never been thinner. What you believe, you become. What you align with, you receive. The future is not waiting, it is responding. So walk boldly, think clearly, feel deeply, and know this: if you keep going, you will win. You were made for this moment. You were made to co-create with heaven. And the time to create consciously is not someday, it is now. Before we close, I invite you into a moment of sacred reflection. Wherever you are, slow your breath, open your heart, and prepare to enter the stillness where the Eternal speaks. This is not about performance. This is about presence. This is your space to reconnect with the one who formed you in purpose and calls you now into greater alignment. As you listen, allow these words to wash over your spirit like rain on the thirsty ground. Father of light, I come to you not with perfection but with openness. I surrender the noise of my mind and the weight of my expectations. I lay before you every part of me that still clings to fear, to doubt, to control. And I ask, in your mercy, renew my heart. Reshape my thoughts so they reflect your truth. Restructure my emotions so they flow with your peace. Align my body so it becomes a temple of your presence. Let me not be pulled by the past or trapped by time, but drawn by your spirit into the fullness of this present moment. I receive this moment as holy. I receive this breath as sacred. I receive this invitation to awaken. If I have been sleeping, wake me. If I have been resisting, soften me. If I have been wandering, call me home. Reveal to me, Lord, the blueprint you wrote before time. Help me to remember what I forgot when I entered this world, that I was born for communion, for purpose, for light. Teach me to see beyond what is seen, to hear beyond sound, to know beyond understanding. Let my vibration rise with heaven's rhythm. Let my words carry healing. Let my silence speak trust. And when the world trembles, anchor me in your truth. When illusions fall, show me what is real. When timelines shift, Help me choose the one you designed. I open my hands, God, not to grasp, but to receive. I open my heart, not to protect, but to radiate. I open my mind, not to control, but to be transformed. Thank you for the divine companions walking with me, seen and unseen. Thank you for the signs I've overlooked and the mercy I've been given daily. Thank you for staying close, even when I drifted far. And now, as this sacred window opens wide, I choose to step through. I choose to align my thoughts with your will, my emotions with your love, my spirit with your power. May I be a vessel of your light, not by might, not by argument, but by presence. May others awaken just by being near the peace you've cultivated within me. I declare, I am ready, I am aligned, I am chosen, and I say yes, not just with my lips, but with my life. In the name of the one who awakens all things, I pray. Amen. If this message stirred something deep in your soul, I invite you to stay connected. This is not just a video, it's a space where awakening continues. Press the like button so more people can receive what you've just experienced. Hit the subscribe button to walk with us through each step of this journey. And don't leave without commenting below. Just type 777. That's how we know you're part of this chosen frequency. A signal that you're not alone and that you're walking among a global community of awakened hearts. Together, we're learning what it means to live by faith, to act from purpose, and to witness how God still moves in every detail of life. This is just the beginning, and we'd be honored to walk it with you.